He's been running it very well. But whilst I was in interface...
Next is a panel comprising 4 ladies and a gentleman. The panelists share their experiences, exploits and lessons learned in the course of running their businesses in the country. The founder and CEO, Secure ID Limited, Mrs. Kofua Kinkugbe, believes embracing organic growth is key.
It was factory. It makes smart cards for 3 main sectors. So for the banking sector, we're talking about MasterCard, Visa cards, debit cards, and so on, credit cards for the banks. Then it makes SIM cards for the telecoms, so we're talking about the GSM cards that goes into your phone. And then high security cards for the public sector. So we're talking like national ID, passports, voters card, driver's license, and things like that. So that's basically what Secure ID did. At every stage in time, as an entrepreneur, you know when it's time. So from the small company, myself and I felt a drive to build an institution. I wanted to be surrounded by mentors. I had a large dream in Secure ID, but I'm one that believes in organic growth. I believe that you take baby steps, one step after the other. You take a baby step, it's successful, then you're encouraged to take another step. Then it's successful, then you go on, and you go on. But the point about Secure ID is that I started with the end in mind. And so I had this large dream. But you know that a dream is just a dream if there's no action. And so a dream becomes a vision. From the vision, strategic development. From strategy, you're talking about aligning the people to your vision, because without the people, you can't achieve it. And from the people is execution. And execution, honestly speaking, is a graveyard for a lot of CEOs. You have a fantastic plan, but to execute it is a problem. And so Secure ID was this big dream, but we went from one stage to the other. So we started with the end in mind, knowing where we wanted to be. It was a Pan-African dream. And started from, one stage, then went to a bigger thing, another stage, then to a bigger thing, another stage.
The MD of Terra Culture, Bolanle Austin Peters, who's literally demonstrated an uncommon ability to source funding for art projects in Nigeria, talks about how she's managed to make a difference.
Primarily because of funding. It's an area that Nigeria hasn't really understood the economics of the arts and the value that it can bring to us as a nation. So it was clear to us from day one that we wanted to build a brand going forward. And I think that was one of the defining things that we did from day one. So people took us seriously and they saw us as building something that would last. And we've been there now for 15 years. We started the initiative on roughly maybe about 100 million naira. And today the business is worth more than $1 billion in terms of assets. And the way we've gone about it is that at every point in time, I and my team, I have an incredible team, we sit down and we ask ourselves, what more can we be doing in this space to bring value to the industry? So we have the culinary arts, which is our food essentially, and we know that food sells. But Nigerians somehow have not packaged our food to the extent that we can become like the Chinese and Indians and Ethiopians. So we started our Terra Culture restaurant. And believe it or not, our restaurant is probably one of the most consistent revenue earners for the center. Because unlike the international organizations that I wanted to be like, they get grants and subventions from the government to promote the arts. We don't get that. And that was the value of having other people on board who advised us then that we had to have a sustainable plan. And the sustainable plan was food. We didn't know then, but it was the food that kept us in business for 15 years. We have never not been able to pay our salaries because Nigerian food is very good and it's very tasty, and everybody comes there to eat. So I think food, for instance, is an area that a lot of us need to still look at the possibilities of investing in as well. Then from there we moved into productions. The productions came to mind simply because we were a platform. So what we did was we gave the artists an opportunity to come and showcase their works, the visual artists, the performing artists. Everybody came to Terra Culture to do their thing. So we started with Saro, and then we moved on to Waka the musical. And from there we became bolder, and we said, look, Nigerians need entertainment abroad, and also the foreigners need to see who we are as a people at our best. So we went to London with the help of BOI and a lot of institutions that supported us, Mixer, a lot of government institutions actually. And you can imagine the logistics of putting a 50-man team, all of them young people under 21, going to London for the first time. So we had the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we had Information and Culture, Nigerian Export Promotion, everybody came together. And that's the power of the motivation of just one or two people coming together to say, we can make this happen. By the first day in London, we were completely sold out. So imagine if we had a venue in London that allows us to show our plays for 6 months. Just imagine. So Bank of Industry should probably look for that space so that we can be doing that.
The next panelist, the founder and CEO Real Fruit, Affion Williams, says despite a shaky start to her enterprise, persistence paid off as her clientele grew to include even airlines.
When I first started my business, obviously, I have the typical story, started from a flat in Surulere, so it wasn't at all big. And to be honest, I personally battled with a lot of courage, I would say. I was very, very nervous in the early days about the potential, especially when you bring something new to the market and you don't know if people are going to like it, and people ask you, is that your only job? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, you need a side hustle? I'm like, no. But I definitely struggled with the bravery in the beginning to be able to actually see the potential and sort of unearth it. And one of the things that just sort of gave me continued permission to just go bigger and bigger was the validation from the market. I mean, customers liked the product, people were approaching us. I never, in the beginning, in my slides, I had like this dream of being on airlines, and 3 years later, when we got on an airline and an international airline, it was just validation that actually we can continue to just realize some of these things that are in our head. And so if I think about what sort of was the one thing that sort of made me go further, it was always trying something on by faith and hoping that it worked out. Sometimes it didn't work out, but also just after achieving something, learning the lessons and understanding that those same lessons can apply, you can apply to the next stage and the next stage. And as we continue to grow, it's now purely based on the belief that given how much we've struggled and what we've achieved, we can achieve much more.
The CEO, Pathcare Laboratories, Pamela Ajayi, says in her own case, she had to pay attention to institutional equity shareholding.
One of the things that I did that I think was helpful is when you have a business plan, what we did initially was we also identified people who would use our services and brought them in as equity shareholders. So that when we started looking for institutional equity shareholders, they thought, oh, okay, you've got a number of hospitals in there. They're surely going to use your services, and they will then be more ready to invest in you. Coming to the point of the lady who talked about equity versus debt, we have actually raised, we've done rights issues, etc., to get us to the point at which we are. And there's something called an equity debt ratio that a company should have, which then advises you on what kind of levels of debt you should have in your company to actually make the best of it. Within the healthcare section, we actually decided it will be our corporate social responsibility. The two angles of corporate social responsibility we have at Pathcare is one, free testing for the underprivileged, and two is healthcare education, which we do A, to the public, which is the Doctors on Air program, and B, to our doctors, because there's a lot of healthcare education that our doctors actually need, bringing in doctors from the diaspora. We have a program called the Doctors Forum, but it is all self-funded.
For the only man on the panel, the CEO Wesi Creations, Wasiu Taiwo, he realized early enough that there was a huge technical gap in the clothing, textile and garment industry in Nigeria, and he felt compelled to fill it.
When I got to some international exhibition, sometimes 4 or 5 years ago, then I discovered that we are no match. We can't compete internationally. And I have to come back home and say, okay, what do we do next? I've been to London College of Fashion. We have tailors, but they are not good tailors. They are not skillful tailors. You only have few of them that can do what you want after a little training. Most of them, they are not even there at all because we don't have the training institutions that will produce professional tailors in Nigeria.
The founder and CEO, Secure ID Limited, as well as the other panelists, gave their parting words about their unique funding experiences with the Bank of Industry. They also proffer solutions to issues relating to the current business climate in the country.
Financing is based on trust. I'm sorry that I'm starting from the middle, but honestly speaking, it wasn't as easy as that because I started my first company, like she said, from a guest room.
And that Nigeria really needs to be the focus. There's no reason why Nigeria should not be the center for West Africa for health tourism. We have what it takes, we have the people, we have the skills, but we need the infrastructure and we need the support to which to do it.
The Bank of Industry's bias and support for women is no lip service at all. That's why it has continued to empower women with tools required to take that bold step in their business aspirations. Don't be left out. If you're a woman and an entrepreneur and you desire to get loans from the Bank of Industry, just like the women in today's program have done, visit any of their branches closest to you. Otherwise, go to their website at boi.ng. It's possible to apply online as well. Just download the BOI SME Loan app from the Google Play Store. Don't forget to tweet at me at KAY Alayande should you have further inquiries. Well, that's our package today on the program. I'm Kayode Alayande. Bye now.